So it is 6:32. Today is Monday, October 7th. This is a regular meeting of the Montgomery Selectboard. We're going to call the meeting to order again at 6:32. Quick note, we are having some technical difficulties with Zoom. So unfortunately, the Zoom connection is not live. We'll try to keep working on that, but for now, unfortunately, we're not able to access that. The meeting is being recorded, so the recording will be available after the fact. First order of business, as always, is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Are there any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
I'm going to change the title of the meeting to say regular meeting of the select board.
Yes, and that has been changed on the formal one. Liz did make that
Great
catch.
This is what was posted.
Yep.
And car counter was on Route 58, not Route 242.
Yes, car counter is on 58. That is correct. Thank you.
I'm not doing anything.
Any other additions or deletions? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes of the September 16th special meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. We have a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Leanne. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in the favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. If there's no objection, we're joined tonight by Catherine Sims, who is a candidate for our Senate district. As in past meetings, when we've had candidates present, we have suspended the agenda and allowed them to speak at the top of the meeting, acknowledging that a lot of them travel from distances and have places to get to. If there's no objection, we can give Catherine the floor for a few minutes. All right, hearing no objection, Catherine, feel free to adjust the body and the crowd.
Yeah, thanks. And maybe I'll stand up so I can see everyone in the room as well. So I'm Catherine Sims, and as Charlie said, I'm running for Senate for our district with Senator Starrs retiring after 46 years of service. There's an open seat. And as a part of that campaign, going around checking in with towns to introduce myself and also to hear a little bit more from you about the issues that matter most to you. Just start with a little bit of background. I live in Craftsbury with my husband and my two kiddos, 5 and 7. I just finished my second term in the House, so I've been there for 4 years, and most recently served on Ways and Means, one of the 2 money committees. And I'm also the co-chair of the Rural Caucus, which is a bipartisan caucus where we explicitly have a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent co-chair, because we believe we can do our best work when we come together, we find points of compromise and move forward together. I'm motivated to run for office because I care deeply about rural Vermont and our special way of life. And as I've been campaigning all summer and fall, I've heard time and time again that folks care deeply about where we live. And also that folks are worried about the future with, wages not keeping up with inflation, property taxes through the roof in some communities, high housing, healthcare, childcare, retirement costs. It feels harder and harder to get by. And making Vermont more affordable and supporting our rural way of life are the issues that kind of motivate me to run. And in the House, I've tried very hard to be a strong voice for our communities, our families, not any particular party. Some of the work that I'm most proud of are like collaborating with Charlie on working to strengthen our forest economy and a number of issues, helping reform Act 250 to make it cheaper, easier, and faster to build in our villages and our downtowns where we so desperately need additional housing to address the housing crisis. I'm helping secure federal broadband money to build out to every last mile so that everyone can get connected. But for me, serving doesn't always mean just advocating for what's good for us. It also means standing up and voting no when that's necessary. And so I voted against the property tax increase bill this last session because I know Vermont can afford to pay more. I voted against the renewable energy standard, concerns about raising utility rates. And similarly, I will vote against the clean heat standard if that moves forward and it raises home fuel costs, because again, I know too many Vermonters are already struggling to afford their way of life now. So it's been an honor to be in the House, and there are big challenges facing our community. And so I have a proven track record of bipartisan collaboration, and I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one to carry on Bobby's legacy as a fierce advocate for the kingdom. But happy to answer questions about myself, but would really love to hear from you, from your perspective. How is Montgomery doing? What are the biggest challenges that you face? How can Montpelier better support the work that you're doing?
Open it up to anyone on the board, if you'd like.
We do have an issue on one of our bridges in town. The gravel's built right up to the bottom of the bridge, and I've been trying to get a permit to get it cleaned out, and it's really V-Trans's thing to get it cleaned out, but if it backs up, I mean, it affects some houses, it affects our rec field, it'll affect our roads. And I haven't really gotten too far with that.
Have you had any luck with DEC and the River Corridor folks?
I've talked to-
Matthews cover this area, or is it?
Yeah, I've talked to Chris Brunel, to get a permit and everything, and then the hard part is you have to have a licensed area to put the material, and the town really can't afford to clean that out by itself, and it's really a V-Trans issue, and last time it was cleaned out was after the Halloween storm, and I think V-Trans hired St. Ange's to do it. And then before that, it was like 2014, and I did get a permit then to do it, and then V-Trans did all the work, because it has to be done a certain way.
Do you have the address of the bridge?
It's the bottom of it's the West Hill, Hill West Bridge. The bottom of, I don't have the number in front of me. But
No, that's fine.
yeah.
Happy to reach out to the secretary and.
I'd like to get something on their schedule next year. I mean, there's gonna be an ice jam there this year, and there's gonna be problems, and,
So it sounds like trying to expedite it this fall would be better than.
Well, we really can't do much this fall because you really can't dig in the river after October 1st. I mean, that's the issue. And I was trying to get something going before that, but I guess when spring comes, whatever happens, happens. But I'd like to get something on their schedule for next year.
I know there's one town I was working with that got some funding to do some remediation work, and they were concerned about that October deadline. And I did understand that there was some flexibility. Maybe this year there's a little bit more leniency given the kind of flood impacts and the additional work. So I'm happy to reach out to them.
Because we do have a study going on about flood, to help prevent some flooding in town. So that bridge is one of their priorities. So hopefully we'll come back with something fairly soon with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so many of our communities are, we are facing changing weather and figuring out how to be resilient and invest upfront.
Try to prevent some of these problems,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think in general, we hear a lot from our community about the conditions of our roads, and as best that our roads crew can keep up, it's not enough because of changing climate and just the inflation of materials and the expense of all of the equipment and training and all of that sort of collectively compounds this problem of old roads that aren't able to be maintained in a timely fashion. And if there's getting more support from the state for that, I don't think anyone would object.
We have 5 mud seasons.
Yeah.
Just, too many freeze-thaw cycles, especially when we want to support working landscape, which means sap trucks and log trucks at times when, things are soft and squishy is really challenging.
Because we maintain Route 58 and we get state aid for that, but we've been keeping track of, we just put a mileage counter on that road just to see how many cars are going through, and then we even try to grade it now. We can hardly grade the road because there's so much traffic. So we use up our state aid for our class 3 roads on that section of road. So if we could get more funding for that class 2 road, which connects us to Lowell, it's closed in the wintertime, but in the summertime, there's a lot of traffic. We're waiting for numbers back on the traffic count just to see, but I mean, there's a lot more houses up there now too than it used to be.
Yeah.
On all our roads. So that's the big issue.
Yeah, it's just to think about, when have we last revisited that funding formula, and how do we maybe account for changing weather and increased traffic?
Because I've heard they're going to be cutting our funding for state aid and stuff, which we can't really afford to have done. So if we could advocate for that funding to get a little better if we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
You know?
certainly struggled,
I mean-
as shift to EVs, which is great, but, the significant portion of our roads, bridges, and highway funds comes from a gas tax, and folks aren't, filling up their car with gas, then, we're seeing declining revenue, and until last session, we hadn't updated the fees since 2016, and so our transportation fund was seeing a significant deficit, and that was actually limiting our ability to draw down federal funds, and so that's really put some
Oh, okay.
constraints. But we are looking at a mileage-based user fee for EVs so that, whether you drive gas or an electric car.
You're still using the
or
roads.
You're still using the road, and,
Yeah.
it does still require maintenance, and then we
Yeah.
all have, a share to pay to invest in the infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah. That's a few concerns I see. Yeah,
Housing,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, housing too.
that's a big one. For our town community.
Yeah.
I think that we have a really vibrant community. I think that we have a lot of people that are incredibly invested in our community and work really hard individually to make it the place that it is through volunteer efforts and sitting on boards and organizations. But I do think that we're at a tipping point with affordability. I think that as people have to work more in order to afford their lifestyle and be able to live in this community that they love, they're gonna have less and less time to dedicate to the community that they love, less to give, less to donate, all of those parts and pieces that make it what it is now. And I think that that goes for the school as well. I mean, I think that we're seeing, not necessarily in this community, but in all of our communities, less investment in our schools because there's so much fiscal investment in our schools. And so there is that divide. And I see that as a big problem that we need to address. But I do think that it comes back to that affordability. I think it comes back to taxation and really looking at how wages and compensation need to increase to match what all of the other pulls and strains are on people's financial situations.
Yeah. And I think we see it maybe almost at a crisis point in our, volunteer EMS and fire. So so many parts of our community have been reliant on volunteers, and that's both been what's special about our communities is it's we just band together and make stuff happen. And as families and young folks are strained more and more, they're just less. You got to work more jobs, and there are less hours in the day to kind of give back. I know my husband and I, feel that with 2 kiddos. We'd love to volunteer for the PTO more or be on the fire service, but it's really hard to get by. And so how do we, both work to increase wages, but also lower some of those core costs that are crippling our middle class, like housing and healthcare and childcare and retirement, so that people, to have healthy communities, I think we need a variety of socioeconomic incomes, and we need everyone to have an opportunity to live, work, raise a family, and retire here. Until we fix some of those systems, it's going to continue to strain our, community's vitality going forward. So, couldn't agree more. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about, do you feel like the current Act 50 regulations are limiting housing development? Do you all feel like any of the changes that we made over the last few sessions are opening up opportunities for Montgomery to make investments in housing, help lower the cost of healthcare and grow the base of folks living here?
I think there's been a ton of investment in short-term rentals, a ton. And that to me it's out of control. First of all, you can't even figure out how many there are. And we have had, more than one person come to either us or just speak out in general to just say, these homes that go up for sale, yes, there are homes for sale, but not everyone can afford almost $250,000 or $500,000. And so then, we're finding people who have lived here forever having to look out of town for something else. And it's super sad.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's so many things, right, that are affecting our housing, inflation of prices, like lack of development over years, rules and regulations, but, short-term rentals are absolutely a part of that, right? We've seen an explosion, especially since, COVID, and that has taken long-term rentals or, primary residences off the market and further constrained what's available. We did take some action last session. We added a 3% surcharge on short-term rentals, so guests pay when they pay their meals in the rooms, an additional surcharge, and the revenue from that was dedicated to the education fund to lower property taxes for primary residents. So the increases that we're seeing this year would have been higher had we not done that. But there certainly are other options that we, I think, can and will continue to look at around. I think short-term rentals do help attract people to the area. They spend tourism dollars at our restaurants and our mountains, and that's important. But with the limited availability of housing, it creates some real competition, and especially from my perspective, the out-of-state investors who buy things, we should be looking at it extra hard. Have you all considered as a town level kind of regulation?
We've looked at ordinance has been floated a few times. We've talked about zoning. Right now, our planning commission is in the process of redoing our zoning bylaws, and so that's how they're trying to look at that now, as opposed to an ordinance. Depending on how that process goes, we might move back to an ordinance. I mean, it seems like every few months another town in Vermont adopts one, so we have plenty of models at this point we can look to. But that's kind of where things stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as Act 250 goes, there haven't been many projects kind of that are looking to start or are kind of waiting that would trigger Act 250. That said, there are possibilities for projects which could, either on land which is not developed or the redevelopment of certain properties. So I'd say that as far as the changes to Act 250, one of the things that, and I've talked to you before, is that when we talk about how certain communities should be exempt in their designated downtowns and village centers, really want to make sure that it's every community has that opportunity. So it's not just the Burlingtons or the Rutlands or the Benningtons, but your Montgomerys, your Bartons, your Greensboros also have the opportunity to be able to take on that municipal delegation of those responsibilities.
And those exemptions do exist now until we move to the three-term,
Yep.
three-tier system. So any housing development in your designated village, is fully exempt from Act 250
Yep.
for now if it's housing.
Yeah.
But, we absolutely need to stay focused on, as we move through this modernization process, that we're doing it in a way that creates opportunity for communities of all sizes and scales to grow, and also, be sensitive about critical natural ecosystems.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do want to, in the interest of time, open it up to folks from the community. If anybody has questions for Catherine or comments.
What else do I need to know about Montgomery? You don't wanna know. I'm not gonna speak out right now. Maybe another day.
Okay, well,
I will be good today.
I'm happy to, if anyone visits my website, my cell phone is on there, and you're welcome to call and email directly.
Right, Charlie, I'm gonna be good today.
I never know what to expect, honestly.
And I'm gonna stay for a little bit. I do have littles and they need help wrestle to sleep.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'll stay the whole time, but I appreciate the chance
Great.
to connect with you all.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Catherine.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
And again, you're welcome to stay for as long as you're able.
The legislature won't do anything about town meeting day.
At this point, those are local conversations and discussions, and the different communities have landed in different places about whether to stay in person or move to Australia Valley. And I certainly think there are advantages and disadvantages to each, but what's important is communities deciding what works best for
Yeah.
them.
Great, thank you, Catherine. And I apologize, I'm still trying to get this computer to work. So if you see me fiddling with it, I am paying attention. I'm just trying to get it to boot to a place where we can connect to the Zoom. With that, let's move on to Public Works. So the first item here is just an update and a few actions related to the municipal wastewater system project. So the first thing here is just a clarification of timeline. I just want to make sure, because we've talked about the project going to bid this fall. So that the plan is still, the engineers are working on the 90% engineering deliverable, which is essentially what the bids are based off of. They don't ever call it 100% because things change during that process. So the plan is still to get the 90% deliverable done this fall, and then get the bids out. But that process for getting bids back can take a while. So I just wanted to point out that like we will not have bids back this fall. It's probably going to be early part of next year before we get any numbers back. I just wanted to clarify that because I could have given the impressions in the past conversations that we would expect to have bids in hand this fall. The other item on the agenda here is the approval of the purchase and sale for the Main Street pump station parcel. So if folks recall, this is the property which is immediately after the Happening and the kind of the row houses there. It's bare land. We had the appraisal done for it to get us a purchase price. The appraisal came back at, it's either 12 or 14. I can't.
It was 12.
It was 12. Okay, thank you. We did get a price with the landowner negotiated to $10,000, so under the appraised value. The plan has been to put pump station 1 on the property. The property itself is 1.45 acres, I believe. The pump station would only take a small part of that. We did have kind of a wrinkle come up this past Friday regarding some of the engineering work that's being done on the pump station in relation to the 500-year flood elevation. One of the federal requirements is that the pump station be built to sustain an inundation event up to the 500-year flood elevation. That would be an 11-foot rise in water levels. And so the engineers are still doing their due diligence now, but it is looking like the pump station there to meet those standards may not actually be like effectively feasible from a financial point of view. There are a couple of alternatives that they're looking at right now that we're going to kind of investigate. In talking with the engineering team and the partners at the state about this property on Main Street that we are looking at, the team has kind of come to the conclusion that it still does make sense for the town to purchase it because one, if the pump station does work out to be there, we've got it, and two, through the course of the project, we're going to need a place to stage stuff. We're going to have 120 some odd cast tanks. We're going to have the piping, all that stuff. So if we don't have a place to put it, we're going to have to lease a place. And the farther away that place is, increasing transportation costs. So to have a staging area in town just makes a lot of sense. If we do buy the parcel and utilize it for that purpose, and then we don't put a pump station on, the town can always then make a decision in the future about what to do with the property, whether it's to sell it, make it a park, make it a community garden space, whatever. But we have the funds to purchase it through either the ARPA allocation from the state. We can book it to that, or we could book it to the wastewater reserve fund that has the money coming in from local option tax. There's, I want to say $187,000 in there right now at last count. So we've got 10 grand in there that we can pull out for the purchase.
Sorry, question. There's 187,000 raised from the 1% tax so far?
I believe so. Like
In
that's on memory.
here?
Yes.
Nice.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, that's a nice.
Oh, 2 years. Yeah.
2 years.
Yep.
I think
Yes, it is.
And that money's gonna go toward wastewater capital, like,
that goes for the bond
and
payment.
that'll
and
should
then-
be shared.
Yeah,
So people that are getting hooked up will benefit from that.
Then that'll go to
Yes.
O&M, whatever.
That'll
Yeah.
affect their bills, that'll help.
That brings the affordability metric where we want to see it.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
That's really good, that's a good number, I didn't
Yeah.
expect it to be that high.
And the
No,
and
we-
the
Yeah.
hope is that we can also kind of, given that we're bringing money in now prior to that day one connection start, we can build up a reserve to have so that when capital improvements have to be made, we've got money already in the account,
Yeah.
and then we'll continue to add to that. As part of this, we talked about in the past, there's a crap, I wish I had my notes open. There's a plan that we have to write up that the state certifies, which is like a, how are you going to pay for this when shit breaks plan? They don't call it quite that.
Yeah.
And so part of that is developing what we're talking about right now. So we are doing that as well.
We had to do that. The water.
Cool, yeah.
So the action tonight would be for the board, if it so chooses, to vote to execute the purchase and sale agreement on the Main Street parcel in the amount of $10,000.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Not hearing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thank you. I will pause at this point just to open up any public comment or questions on this topic, since there tend to be some around it. And so if we want to address any of those right now, the floor is open to any questions or comments around that. Okay, not hearing any. We will have visitors. Again, we can come back to that. Next up under Public Works is the streetscape project. There's no update at this time. The engineers are still working through clearing right-of-way, which is that next step in order to then move towards the application for the bike and ped grant that we've talked about, which is kind of that next big step there.
So the archaeological people going around, that's for the wastewater, right?
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry, wait. Yes, the archaeological digging that just happened was for the wastewater project.
Okay.
Yes. And I will also note, with the wastewater project, there was a series of soil borings that occurred a month or so ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
There is another series of those, which they will be moving on to. We have hired a different contractor for that work.
And they're gonna let me know this time?
As soon as I have the dates, I will make sure you know the dates, but it is a separate contractor. 95% of the borings are going to be within the right-of-way. There are a couple on private property they're looking to do, and I'll be reaching out directly to those landowners to get permission. So
Okay.
there shouldn't be any surprises for anybody. Just acknowledging last time the contractor we had was not great on communication, and there were some things that they were doing during the course of the work that were not great, which is why
This one will have traffic control and all that stuff, hopefully.
I will clarify traffic control, but I will get you the dates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, moving on to general updates. We've got some here on the agenda. Scott and Mark might have others, but just to kind of tick through them. Reagan Road Power Project, any updates there?
So the fire department needs a little building up there, for their communications. Is that gonna come out of the ARPA funds, or is that up to us, the road crew, to build, or is they up to the fire department to find a building, or what's the story with that?
That is a good question.
Did they have any
They've been asking
recommendations?
the road crew to build it, and we really don't have time to build something like that. I mean, there is buildings you can get already built.
Yeah, the structure is gonna basically house the comms equipment.
Yeah, what size was he thinking? It was like
6 foot by 6 foot.
6 by 6.
6 by 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to replace the one.
Replace the one that's on 242 now.
242. We just want to replace it. It's
Yeah.
gotta be insulated and heated and
Yeah,
to put all the communications for the fire and ours as well for the town.
Yeah.
It'll be in that building.
So are they replacing the one on 242, or are they?
yeah.
They're moving the communications over here because the radio communications don't work very well.
Gotcha.
over here, and they tested
Yeah.
it.
Gotcha, okay.
That's why they
And that
need the
building
power.
falling apart, it can't.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one can't be moved. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an answer to that question. I think basically we would have to figure out internally how we want to handle it.
Okay.
You know, there is still money in the general ARPA allocation fund that we've got, which we can draw on, which this project was pegged to for the power extension. We hadn't talked about the
This
building.
is for emergency services.
Emergency services, so we can talk about whether it makes sense to split some funding. Do we have a cost? Okay, so I think the next step is to get an estimate for what it would take, so that
Okay.
we can actually have a number to reflect on,
To build one or to buy one?
Both.
whichever makes the most sense. But I think before we can actually move on an expenditure, we'd have to know what the expenditure is. I know Doug wants to get it done sooner rather than later,
Yeah,
and you guys are,
Down freezes.
yeah, and you guys are still working on getting stuff
Yeah.
done on the road, so I know timing is tight. But I would say, if you and Doug can figure out what exactly it is and what the most cost-effective route is, then the board can act on how to pay for it. And depending on the amount, we can talk to fire department about whether or not any of that comes out of their budget.
yeah. Okay, I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah.
Fuller Bridge Road, culverts have been replaced.
Culverts have been replaced, we packed them all in, there's been settling for a week and a half, 2 weeks, we're gonna try next week to pave the spots that we cut in.
Okay.
And as soon as that's done, we should be good to spring.
So you replaced what, 8 up there?
9.
9 up there.
Replaced 9, which means 18 culverts, or were some of them 3?
No, most were 2, a couple were 3, and one was 4 pieces.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, one was really long and really deep.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all done, and we should be good. We're gonna try and pave it next year, the whole pipe, to see what the timeline. We didn't cut the whole bunch up.
We actually found an old bridge.
I was gonna say, what surprises did you find buried in the road?
There was a bridge right by Fuller Bridge, that next culvert. They were starting to dig and there was an old cement bridge in there. And so they had to break it all up to get the culvert in. So it's a wonder the water was even going through there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like car axles and everything in the concrete of the old bridge. It was
Wow.
pretty solid.
Could repurpose it.
This was supposed to be the easiest culvert, but
Yeah.
it ended up.
Well, I think to your point earlier, Suzanne, that, you know, our roads have suffered incident after incident after incident, and most of the time we're trying to get them back open, let alone bring them all the way down and rebuild them. And so,
Well, then the other issue was a lot of the culverts, okay, say you've got an 18-inch culvert, there was a 24-inch culvert stuck on both ends to extend the life of the culvert. So, you know, so a lot of things were just patched up through there. So every culvert that was replaced really needed to be done, and this is getting ready for paving next year, so
Okay.
settle down. And
So regarding paving, do we need to get a new estimate from
I'll
Pike
have to get one in the spring.
for the full? Okay.
Yeah.
Just as long as we have that come budget season.
yeah,
I
see,
can try to get it for budget. Last year, he wanted to wait till spring to see what their numbers were for.
Yeah. I mean, even if he just gives us, we won't hold him to it, but if he
Yeah.
can give us an idea,
Yeah.
just to see what kind of the costs have gone since the last time.
It's not gonna be now.
Yeah, we can hope, right?
yeah.
You know that.
All right. Mark, you wanted to give an update on culverts and ditching work?
I think Scott's
Oh,
got it.
Scott.
So he kind of wants to give an update of what
Yeah,
they
Scott.
did,
Take it away.
culverts and ditching this summer.
We changed 33 culverts this year, which is a lot. Hill West, we did 3, West Hill 1, Debo 2, Debo Road 1, Mercy Hill, we changed 3, 1 in Rushford Valley, 4 on Reagan Road, Rossier Road, we did 8. Fuller Bridge, we did a 9, and we did the big one on Vincent's Bridge. Those are the 33 we changed. As far as ditching goes, we've done just about 600 loads of fill. We did some on West Hill West, we did some West Hill, we did a lot in Deep. We did Deer Fern Road, a lot on Mercy Hill and Rushford Valley. We did a fair amount on Reagan Road, plus the power project, we did a lot of that. 58, we did 2 sections. Rossier Road, we did the whole road. We changed all the culverts. Amadon, we did some edging. We did a bunch of, all the culverts and a bunch of edging on Fuller Bridge. Flat Falls, we did ditching from Jesse Sapp House up past the garage. Some edging on Green Mountain Road. 600 meters.
Great.
So this is, just proves the guys aren't sitting in the garage with some people, rumors are going around town. They're out there working, and I appreciate all their hard work
Yeah.
and getting things done.
No kidding.
And I think, you know, as we talked about, the next step as we kind of transition into winter and out of kind of the summer season, the next step is to sit down and look at the next year
Yeah.
and come up with that list and then put that back out to the town to look at, comment on, as we kind of think about this more longer range planning
A
process.
lot of these locations they did do this year were bad spots this spring for the mud season. So
Yep.
we're hoping this will help. And, you know, every mud season comes up, that's helped. That's where you plan your efforts. And
Yeah.
There's only so much money in the budget.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time we've really used the budget to get the ditching and culverts done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
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 There's a little bit left
So-
in the ditching budget, or the contracted services budget. But as we talked the other day, I talked to Mark and you as well, on the board, we have a truck down.
Yeah, so do you want to give an update on where we're at with,
Truck 2, which is the newest of the tandems, we went to St. Albans the other day to get a load of gravel, and he called me on the way back, said the truck was acting up, so I had to make it, he made it Valancourts, West Enosburg, and, Amy said in 40-something years, he's never seen this happen, and, international dealer said they've never seen it happen. The shaft that comes out of the front of the motor that runs everything in the motor, plus runs the hydraulic pump, the bearing went in the front of the motor and bent the shaft and took out the gearbox, which isn't the issue. The parts are actually on national back order, and they said possibly 4 to 6 months. The truck doesn't want to be kick-started.
Yeah.
So as of right now, parts could be here tomorrow, they could be here 6 months. We don't know.
So we've got that spare truck.
Through international, it's the only place to get the parts.
Yeah.
We've tried 4 or 5 places, and no one even stocks, no one even lists the parts in their parts department.
Yeah.
So we're in an emergency to getting parts. Luckily, we have the spare truck we bought last year.
The backup.
It's gonna be a struggle to get through with it, but we'll, carries half the amount of sand.
Yeah.
Half the truck, but
Yeah.
we'll get through with it.
Hopefully the parts come in sooner, they're saying.
Well,
Yeah.
somehow we have to figure out how to get over there and get the truck empty and loaded.
Yeah.
And, we gotta get down to, we can't get it loaded. So
Yeah.
I'm working with Jamie now and get that moved. So, we've hired a truck, we still got 140 loads of stand to haul, so we'll have to hire a truck. We'll buy our truck.
And you talked with Aaron about,
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, and
Awesome.
there's still some money left in contracted, so we're not gonna do any more ditching, we're gonna hold off. We do have one more culvert we have to change that's failed.
yeah.
It's backing up water for someone's house, so we're gonna have to, end of the week, first of the week, we're gonna have to do something with that. I have one culvert left, so we're gonna have to change it for this year, but we're out of culverts, so.
Of course, the price of those have gone way up too.
Yeah, almost triple.
Yeah.
Almost triple on culverts though, yeah.
Yeah, now that culvert that fails in Montgomery County,
Yeah.
we just got out of bed today.
Okay.
So, we'll go with that. Got a hold of the guy that does our excavating. He can do it with a small excavator, so he said, I gotta get it dig safe, because they have water lines up there.
Yeah.
You wanna be the cause of 10 houses not having water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or falling.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with that. So the truck is, we're at the mercy of getting parts.
Yeah.
So they tried all over the US, the international, they can't get any parts.
Yeah. And just, I think everyone probably is aware of this, but just to be clear about it, this truck, none of this is under warranty.
No,
So,
no, we only have one truck that's new enough to have warranty, that's the small truck.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rest of them are all old enough, they're all over 7 years old.
So that's the other thing we need to look at, getting another truck going, new truck going, because it takes almost 2 years to get one
to
now,
build one.
to get one built.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's another day's topic.
Before we move on to the car counter and the chipper, were there questions on Scott's update?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we've got one more round of grading.
Yep.
Yeah.
We started today.
Yeah.
Rained out.
My teeth fell out today, my muffler fell off, it's North Hill.
Yep, we're headed for.
Yeah, he's had,
I just wanted,
yeah,
it's reached that point.
Yeah. Thanks, Tosca. And Roberta?
yeah.
The ditching's hired out, right? Is it cheaper, I think I brought this up before, is it cheaper to run or rent something and do it ourselves or have the town do it versus hiring out every time?
We rented one last year, but there's only 3 of us, we run 3 trucks, so if there's a truck sitting all the time, if somebody has to be in the machine. The guy we hired this year was very efficient, we got a lot done.
I think we got a lot more done hiring it out than,
I feel as if.
Renting a piece of equipment.
Run 3 trucks, and if there is another issue in town, somebody can at least go work with it instead of shoveling.
because renting it, you rent it for like a month, and then you have a rainy month, it sits there. But when
Yeah.
somebody like this, okay, a rainy day, he goes and does something else, we're not paying for the,
Well,
we're paying for the excavator when it's being used.
Yeah, and we actually, and now after the last 2 years, we have like how much grading we, or how much ditching we did and what it cost, and so we can come up with
Yeah.
probably come up with a per mile figure that we could do comparable apples to
Yeah,
apples.
numbers from the state.
Yeah.
We've also-
Actually doing it is, the ones we're cleaning out, I mean, there's so much sediment that it's not what they can average out. I can give you exactly how many loads, the hours from the excavator, and the distance we went.
Yeah.
So we could probably figure something, cost or half mile or mile. Or
Yeah. I
something.
mean, it's always good to look though to see what's the best deal.
It would be
Oh, yeah.
wonderful to start on one end of the road and just
Yeah.
go into the whole road, but we're jumping around trying to get the worst spots when
Yeah.
the season was the worst.
Yeah.
Hopefully in a couple of years, we can actually start on one road and go and do the whole road.
Yeah. We have talked about on the wish list our own excavator.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
For a few years, I think it'd be, the way we did this year, we got a lot done. It worked really good. If we could do that for a few years, it'd be great.
Yeah.
In the ideal world, a few years down the road, maybe
Yeah.
lease or purchase one or.
Great. Good things to come into budget season with as we look
Yeah.
at putting together the next year.
Yeah.
Any other general updates
Um,
that you guys had that you wanted to share?
As far as I'm aware, I guess that's it.
No,
Okay.
I mean, there will be more grading, yeah,
Yeah, more grading.
We'll
Yeah.
go around, do one more
Yeah.
grading.
yeah.
We just got the salt.
Yeah,
There just came through for the state contract.
yeah, the concrete, yeah.
And sent back so we can get the state price for salt.
Hmm.
We're putting up sand right now, and we got probably 40 loads of gravel to put out for spring.
Yeah.
I'd like to put up some more stone, but this leaches doesn't have anything in Pittsburgh, so we're out of Altus, and all, it's costing twice as much.
Yeah.
The last 2 loads we went to get broke down, so
Yeah. So-
it's struggle.
Struggle. Yeah.
We gotta finally, I called 5 places, we finally found a truck, they started today,
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
they're gonna haul this week.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have most of it in this week, we'll finish it up in there, truck next
Yeah.
week.
Okay. We'll keep working with Aaron, seeing what we can squeeze out.
Yeah,
So
that's what we've been,
Hmm.
we saved a little bit, we're not gonna rent a little more this fall, so there was.
Yep.
Yeah.
7,000.
so the car counter, we already talked about this.
We haven't got the numbers yet, I don't think.
No, I did check in with Bethany today, and they haven't run them.
Yeah.
The only thing related to this topic was this perennial question of like, what is Route 58? And so I did start a dialogue with VTrans around this to figure out the history and the status and how that status might change. So
It-
58 is a state numbered town highway.
Yeah,
So it's a town highway, it's a state numbered town highway, and I never realized this.
because it connects another town. It's part of it.
I believe that's one reason, although to that point, like why wouldn't Fuller Bridge Road be a state
It,
numbered?
it is, yeah, I think it is too. It's a class, that's why it's a class 2.
Yeah.
But is it a
It's not
state
numbered.
numbered?
Oh, it doesn't have a state
No.
number.
Because the difference is if you look at the state highway signs, if the sign is
Yeah.
black and white,
It's town.
it's a town road with a state number. If it's green and white, it's a state highway.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm trying to figure out is at what point, like what takes a town road and tips it into a state numbered town highway? I think it's vehicular traffic.
Closure,
What?
the closure.
The
Shut down
closure?
a certain amount of months a year,
The closure makes it a state
makes it a town highway.
town highway.
Makes it a town highway.
Because it's
Because it's
closed.
It's not
wintertime.
connect,
It's
because
not
it's not
connecting.
year round.
No,
It's
you're
not
right.
connecting 2 towns for a full physical year.
For physical
Because it's
use.
shut down for.
So it's a state numbered, okay.
Yes.
Anyway, my conversation with them has kind of been this circuitous way of saying, like, I wanted to bring in the car counter data and basically say, like, hey,
Yeah.
at what point does the traffic tip this into, like, this is your problem, not our problem?
It's not gonna.
So
Or give us more money for it, so it's.
I'm still
yeah.
working on getting this full dialogue back. The car counter numbers will help. but-
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, just to put it to bed, it
And
is
we-
our road.
And we
It is
have,
a town
and we have
highway.
numbers now too of maintaining it, of what it's cost us to maintain
Yeah.
it for the last couple of years, so.
So as we get
We can
more
use that
data,
too.
we can bring it back.
That data.
I talked with our District 8 manager, which is Steve Stanley,
Yeah.
and we talked about, trying for more funds or whatever, but he said it is a town state highway, but the closure, but he said there is no, I mean, you mentioned they're in a deficit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
There's no money at this point,
Yeah.
till, they're in the same boat where everybody is, there's only so much money,
Yeah.
and you do with what you have.
So we'll get our numbers together and we'll give them to Cass.
But
Yeah.
things,
Fix the formula.
things that we're doing, ditching and culverts,
Sure,
is
someone's got to.
gonna save money come spring.
Yeah.
Hopefully those spots won't be,
Yeah.
cost us as much as.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what our hope is.
That's what we're
Yeah.
hoping. It can't, yeah.
Yeah, it can't hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, the last item that we had under Public Works was this proposed purchase of a chipper. Did you guys want to present this?
Yep.
Yeah.
We found, we've been looking into chippers. I talked with Liz. There's a couple grants out there, but they're only for new chippers and it's a percentage, and they're $100,000. So we have found a used one. It's a 2001. It's a 9-inch Mohawk. The guy's acting 8,000. It's been all gone through like Allenport's garage, so they have records. Because right now when we cut brush, we gotta handle it 5 times. Put it in the truck, find a place to dump it, or leave it, which looks awful, obviously. This would be able to either blow it into the woods or into a truck. People can utilize it in their gardens or
Yeah.
wherever. With this one, he's asking 8,000 with all the service records. Runs very well. So, I mean, that would save us.
You can hook it right behind the truck and go.
So $8,000, is the plan to pull this out of the machinery replacement?
Which
Yeah,
I think there's 55,000.
you've got it in there, okay. Roberta, did you have a question on this one?
Yeah, we had a wood chipper, so, why did we give that one away?
Because you had to put it on the back of the tractor, and then getting around the winter time wasn't so good,
Tractor couldn't run it.
you know. So this one's all self-contained, so you can just hook it behind the truck and go. So it's a lot more efficient
That
than the one
was
we
sold,
had.
and money was put into the
Replacement
Yeah.
fund, okay.
Yeah,
We got almost as much as it was new.
yeah,
Okay.
We sold it, so
Yeah.
it's all put back into the tree replacement fund.
Okay. Great, so then the motion would be to approve the purchase of a chipper in the amount not to exceed $8,000 to be paid for out of the machinery replacement fund.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Suzanne. Is there a second?
A second.
Thanks, Emily. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So go for it and just run it through Aaron.
I'm gonna offer less, but
Yeah.
no more than that.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. So now we're gonna move into visitors, general visitors. Tosca, I know that you are on the agenda a little later.
If there's any way to move that up, I have to be to work, I get up and
Yeah,
so.
so that's totally fine. What I was gonna say is, does anybody else have anything for visitors? Just to get a feel for. Anything for visitors, Merle?
I'm being good tonight.
Was you able to get, was it too late to get the listers vacant?
I got your email. It was too late to get it on this one as a warned meeting, but I've got it pegged for next one. So we'll put it on the agenda and warn it for next meeting. Yeah.
And we had a meeting when the library was closed and the clerk was closed. And every light in all the halls, are they on 24/7 for a reason? Every light around the building was on.
They shouldn't be. Typically, the only light that's left on is the one in the hall right here. So I don't know what evening it was or who might have been the last one.
No, I mean, lights out here, everything is on.
Yeah, I don't know. We try to work with folks when they close the building down to kill the lights.
24/7 all year's time, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it isn't like that every night. We'll try to remind folks who are responsible for shutdown duty to kill the lights.
Those microphones work?
These?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the only one I can hear.
I think it's-
They work they're working for the recording, not for the room.
They're recording sound for the camera, so
They're
they're not projecting.
Not much point in me coming because I can't hear anybody except you.
Well, we'll try to, for folks that do, just everyone try to use your outdoor voices, project. So we'll try to speak louder.
I keep forgetting to mention, Mark, it's been 2 years and they've never cleaned that culvert out where they pushed the tree in a couple of years ago at our end of our drive. And I forgot to ask them, when they came down with the excavator this summer, they come down, skipped right over that and then kept on going.
Right by your place?
I managed to get with my tractor, I was able to get the tree out of there, the trunk and everything, but the plow pushed all that in. I keep forgetting it's been 2 years, and I keep forgetting to mention it.
Okay.
But it could use some cleaning out there where it pushed all that, there's limbs and stuff, you know, down in there.
Yeah.
Sun's everywhere.
Okay. Thanks, Merle.
Yeah. Thank you.
If there's nothing else for visitors, we'll move on to the town hall committee. So Tosca, you want to take the floor with this one?
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
This is just a copy for you guys. I don't have a copy for myself.
Do you want this one? I can share with Charlie.
Awesome. I really don't. So, as most of you are aware, our last town hall committee meeting, we had 2 people resign. We have a meeting Wednesday. We're gonna sort of relook at that. But there's been questions swirling around for the last year about the use of the kitchen and we need to get the rental agreement up and going. We need to rent the basement out to everybody and everybody should use the kitchen. And so I met with Paul Fernald, who is the town, he lives in town, but he's a state health inspector.
He hasn't retired yet?
They keep dragging him back in. So he still has this area. Fast and hard rules, what we are doing in the town hall kitchen right now is totally allowable as an occasional use. I included the statute or the rule page in the back under scope jurisdiction. The first sentence applies to us. So it's all places that prepare and serve food to the public other than on an occasional basis. That's where we fall. That is no more than once a month. So with the town dinners, you throw the prom in, you've got the art auction, those are actually falling once a month. So we're legally allowed to use that kitchen with no inspection whatsoever. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, when we met with the plumbing inspector early on, February, April, I think, there was a comment that she made that the kitchen looked great and was probably inspectable. That sort of led to this thought process that, we can have the health inspector come in, we'll pass, but we need to do this work. It's actually the opposite. Because it's a new inspection, we don't have a current one. Like my school kitchen, I've been grandfathered in with a 2-bay sink for years because the work was going to be done. And the plumbing inspector said, it's in their budget, 5 years, it'll get done. So it was signed off on. So I've always passed. In this case, new inspection, no. We need to have all that plumbing done before he will license that kitchen. So I've listed what actually is required. There was a license in that kitchen about 25 years ago, and that was before they required the open plumbing, the floor sinks, where you have to separate your drains so that sewage cannot back up into where you wash and dishes. So that needs to be done. A mop sink is now required, a separate mop sink, and that was never a thing. And also the hand sink needs to go in before there can be a health inspection in that kitchen. Until that inspection takes place, we cannot legally rent that kitchen for money to anybody.
But you can just use it for the event you want.
The occasional usage is totally allowed once a month or less, and that the definition of occasional is on that second page toward the bottom.
Yeah.
And Paul told me, where to find this. He said, just print this out. The food shelf is not under the health department's jurisdiction. That food is handed out for free. The liability insurance is a separate situation, and I've listed on the back of the first page. What Tiffany and I are running into is we're mostly here for Heartful Kitchen, which is what we called the nonprofit, which we had to get to do business with the Vermont Food Bank. They don't partner with municipalities because of grant funding. There's a whole bunch of reasons. The initial one I signed up for was unincorporated nonprofit, $50, no skin off the teeth, whatever. That one's not good enough. It's gotta be the full 501c3. But in the meantime, the town hall committee, there's been some questioning and some pushback about the use of that basement. So why we're here tonight to get an official motion from the select board that the food shelf can be located in the basement. Because I have been fundraising with Tiffany from the get for this, to get Lois out of the Methodist Church. we started on the town hall committee together, and that was our goal. And I feel like we've been true to that goal, and the fundraising we're doing is basically worded like this. We're raising money to fix the basement so the food shelf can locate there. Certain members of the committee did not understand that. So I find myself in a place where further expenditures for this project, the food shelf, are halted right now until I get an official motion from the select board that they support the food shelf being there. I am happy to work out details of a lease, but I can't take people's money and not spend it for what I'm telling them we're doing there. And I don't want to be beholden to a committee of folks that don't show up, that aren't present, and aren't doing any fundraising. As much as I love some of my colleagues on the committee, it's about showing up. We're on the agenda this evening. Here I am, the sole committee member. So I'm very trepidatious about moving forward with the food shelf and the expenses. I'm ready with a liability policy where we have a board that we have formed for Heartful Kitchen. As of today, we have 5 members. But we're waiting. I need something official from you guys because I don't want the whimsy of a committee that's hardly held together to say next week, oh, by the way, get out of here, food shelf.
Well, they really get, yeah.
I feel like that could happen.
Okay.
Based on the behavior and the questioning, and so I need to know, because if we don't locate in the basement of the town hall, we'll find another place, or perhaps approach the Catholic Church, and we'll have to take what was given for that effort with us, which includes the heat pumps, which we stopped the installation process. I'm not gonna spend money on the end result being a food shelf. I mean, and we can't operate a food shelf. And a comment was made on the committee, well, it's Tuesdays 3 to 6, that's what the lease should be for. That is not how, well, I thought a truck came on Tuesday and dropped off food and then people came and picked up that food. So the communication, wherever it has fallen or by the wayside, I feel like Tiff and I have been pretty clear about what we're doing. And I'm kind of like, you know, I'm not gonna take people's money. We just raised $2,500 of rummage in 3 days for the food shelf and the town hall.
So to that, 'cause I just want to make sure, like, first of all, I think the fundraising efforts you guys have done have been great.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
you know, awesome. The heat pump, 5,000, the money from the rubbish sale, the additional 5,000, is that money that is going towards Heartful Kitchen? Or is
Not
it
yet.
going towards?
Not yet. Well, no, that's not true. The rummage sale is 50-50. The 5,000 that's waiting in the wings is gonna be a check to Heartful Kitchen. Because it costs money to run the food shop.
Oh, yeah. I just
So-
want to make sure I know. And then the 5,000 that you got for the heat pumps.
That was to stabilize the temperature in the basement so the food shelf could be there.
For the food shelf, okay.
So it's connected, it's all the same thing. So when you're approaching people for funds, it's like, well, why are you cleaning up the basement? Oh, because Lois would like to be done with the food shelf and
Yeah.
we're gonna relocate it.
Okay, I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
So I think some of the confusion is around, like, if you say you're having a fundraiser and it's benefiting both of these separate organizations, one's a municipal entity, one is a nonprofit organization, that gets a little confusing, right? My recommendation would be, which is what the MCA does, is we have, as a nonprofit, we have a triple net lease from the Montgomery Community Church, which
Right.
owns the building. And the triple net lease designates that the MCA, as a nonprofit, is responsible for paying for the utilities that are in the building that they use, any sort of basic upkeep, and it exempts them from paying things like property taxes, if there were taxes, or major infrastructural changes.
Right.
So if you had a triple net lease in place, you could say the money raised for a heat pump is for the food shelf as an operating nonprofit within this building. it's a thing that's going to be permanently in this building and will ultimately benefit in the long run, but
Right.
the triple net lease designates that money is from the food shelf.
And that's, I welcome like your expertise with having, because you're doing the same thing essentially. You have an owner and a lease, and I have absolutely 100% no problem having a lease with the town. All of these things, I don't have a problem with. I have a problem with having a group of sort of individuals who haven't really shown up at a meeting yet.
Yeah.
Tell me next week, because it's one and 4 other individuals, so we're gonna vote to kick you out of the basement. We don't want the food shelf there. That, and whether that can even be done.
Yeah, so I
And
think,
so if the select board supports it being there, in my mind, everything else can follow. I just need the initial actual official permission to rehome the food pantry / shelf / whatever it ends up being into that basement, and having the time to get it off its feet and to do the work that needs to be done without being, I mean, we finished the rummage sale and I was, well, how soon can you get that crap out of there?
That's a good point to raise too, because that's been causing a lot of confusion, like,
I mean,
why are we?
because we're
just
making
being
money,
able
it's
to
a
open the
great
doors down there,
fundraiser.
And sell stuff 24.
Yeah.
But no, it's been a topic of conversation, and
Yeah.
again, there's a
So-
lot of like,
yeah, so what is
why is
the,
Tosca?
what is the
you know,
plan for,
Well, so the plan Abe just posted, one huge plan is that we're gonna pack up a bunch of stuff and it's getting on a truck and going down south.
Yeah,
So-
he and I talked about that the other day.
That's
donations for hurricane victims.
we're gonna pass it along to Hurricane, but in the meantime, we have always maintained that we're gonna keep a stock of items, the same as Lois did, winter coats and hats, some household goods in a piece of the basement. But the ultimate goal for the basement is not even finished yet, and why not continue doing something that's earning money really easily? And that people are really happy to donate to, and we can keep passing donations down south as long as if this truck route works. I mean, I have enough winter coats for a small town,
Right.
so yes, off they go
Yeah,
for
yeah.
no money. Like, here we go, let's do a great thing with it. And I don't want to run a thrift store, but until the basement work can get lined up and all these things are done, this buys us 8 months to a year to figure out what we'd like to do down there with some more input, and maybe get our town hall committee under control in some kind of actual form that's working before we pull the plug on a pretty fabulous fundraiser. And at this point, half the space can be used for thrifting, and the other half we can start painting the floor. We could, we have work to do down there.
Yeah.
yeah, because I think the main concern with the thrifting or the sale was that if it was an ongoing thing, would it preclude the use of the basement for any other purpose?
No.
And so I think the question is going to be how much of what is staying and where is it stored when it's not operational? And I would say the same thing for the food shelf. So what is it exactly that's going to be there as far as the containers or the fridges or the,
Yep.
and so I think one of the things that we're wrestling with is there's not much clarity. And so, and that goes for like this whole idea of the permission for Full Heart Kitchen to operate the food shelf.
Right.
So I mean, I think some of the stuff we need to actually have like in writing as like a written agreement so that none of this kind of ambiguity that we're dealing with now exists.
Right. Well,
So that we can point to, no, this is the agreement. So,
Right.
I mean, personally, what I would love to see is let's write up a lease agreement, let's write up these things so they are on paper. I think, I'm not going to speak for the full board, but I would guess that everybody here would like to see a food shelf continue
Yes.
in a fashion that works for everybody. It provides a great benefit to the community.
Right.
But I think what we're struggling with is like the ambiguity over what does that look like exactly, and what does the basement look like if that's there, and so.
it looks like a food shelf, and it looks like, I will be real honest with everybody. I do not want that basement to turn in to, and pardon the reformed drinker in me, I have cleaned puke from that bathroom
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
last time. And even renting it to nice people,
Yeah.
we had another incident. Nice people, fabulous people. They rented just the upstairs, went into the basement, helped themselves to all my serving utensils, walked out the door with them in a garbage bag. If
Yeah.
I wasn't there, I would have been really angry.
Yeah. So again, it's a question of, so how are we securing things?
A lock on the door.
Exactly, and also, and then the other question would be for the capital improvements. If Full Heart Kitchen is raising money to get heat pumps and install them in the Grange Hall,
Once
They're-
installed, they stay.
so there needs to be an agreement in the part of the lease about like capital improvements made, who owns what.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like if another entity is buying things and installing them, if it's not clear, you know.
Oh, I
for-
understand
yeah.
that. That's why everything is on hold.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped, because the ambiguity. Because I'm getting signals from the committee that I am on that doesn't want it in the basement. And so if there's any ambiguity about whether, I'm kind of here saying, if you support it in the basement of the Grange, great. If you support the idea of a food shelf in Montgomery, then say that. Because there's other spaces, there's other places I can explore. And if we're better off doing that, that's what we have to do. Because I'm not gonna take any, I can't, what we've given in fundraising to the town hall will remain the town halls at this point. It's water under the bridge. But I feel like the heat pumps are still sitting there, and that's a lot of money that can go to Heartful Kitchen if it needs to relocate and retrofit another space. I would prefer to stay right where I am and but once something is a food shelf, it's not an appropriate place for alcohol and partying and parties and overflow.
Actually, you can't have.
We made room for the Battle of the Bands, and it was fabulous. Everybody was respectful. We shared the space. I'm clearing space now with moving things out, and the variety show will have plenty of room to go down there. Kids will be able to dress up. Kids will be able, I don't foresee a time when the basement's not going to be able to be used by the community, but it's the appropriate uses. I do see a time where the kitchen is limited, even with a license. That kitchen is never going to be a Morrisville or Hardwick Maker's Kitchen that's rented by the hour so somebody can come in and bake bagels. It's not even, it's not going to be a kitchen to have classes. There's no room. People's household kitchens are more appropriate for that on some level.
Yeah.
It's a good caterer's kitchen for a caterer to work in with an event upstairs. There's going to be no issues with that. The
So that
food
would
shelf
still be-
cabinets will be locked, and
That
the
would still be
refrigerators
happening.
will be locked.
That's
That
what
was
happened.
that occasional use, like a
Right
monthly
now.
basis, as it sort of fits into
That's
Like
right
this-
now.
right. And so, without necessarily doing all of this plumbing work, so on and so forth, if
Doing all of it.
Heartful Kitchen moves into this space, still a monthly event
Yes,
could utilize and share the space.
it is.
So long as the space is being used solely like in an appropriate manner as a kitchen, as a caterer's kitchen to serve upstairs.
Right, once a month.
Right, okay.
Yep.
And I know Roberta had a question for you
Well,
too.
I just feel that it's a good spot down there and that we should, not have it open access to just anybody, because if there's food and stuff down there that's for people that need it, other people are gonna have access to all that stuff.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
and
it's a confidentiality thing. I wouldn't wanna go down there and get some hamburger if there was a bunch of people down there all the time using it for different
Yeah.
things. And I know we have a lot of seniors and a lot of people that do use a food shelf, and, I would like it to be like a seniors like center down there where they can go play cards or do something like that too, or you know, senior meals maybe.
Yeah.
We
I
do
don't know
have
if
the
that-
elevator, we've got the ramp.
And that is
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
That's what I would like
So
to
there's-
see, and just have it opening up to like parties upstairs and having people go down there and have access to all that food shelf stuff, or just the stuff that's down there for people who need it. You
Yeah.
know, it's kind of like,
So I think there's a lot of agreement happening in terms of like the high level, big picture stuff we're talking about. I think the things that we would need in order to say affirmatively, like, yes, this is what we're saying yes to, is a amended building use policy that sketches out what exactly the basement is, what it is not, what it can be used for, what it can't be used for, and then a lease agreement with Heartful Kitchen that outlines what the operation is, how it operates, what,
Right.
all the stuff, you know?
And that would be between Heartful Kitchen and the select board, and not, or do you want the town hall
I
committee
think that
to?
the town hall committee, I don't feel that the select board should strong arm the town hall committee
Well, I
to
think
have.
the town hall committee should probably come and talk to us.
Yeah,
And
Well,
that was my next point, was like, if we have a committee,
She's on
that's,
it.
well, I know, but
Nobody else
but
showed
toss,
up.
but that's what I'm saying, is like, if, it sounds like it sounds like there's dissension on the committee. And so, part of me also kind of says like, well, if there are people that have been involved in this that are adamantly opposed, I totally get the like, the world is directed by those who show up, and if you don't show up, you can't bitch about it. But like, I would love to hear like, what's your problem? Like, what are you not, like, what are we not seeing that's the issue here, you know? Because if we are gonna have a committee that does this, like, it has to function. Otherwise, we're gonna disband the whole committee and say there's no
There you
more
go.
town hall committee. But without having like,
But that, I make a motion to do that then, because
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it, I mean, we'll see who shows up Wednesday.
at your next meeting, yeah.
Honestly, I've been to every one. I'm trying to do my best to lead, you know, this is the way a meeting
Yeah.
should run, this is who should show up, this is when you should show up. I feel like we have
Yeah.
some conflict, but I also feel like there's a lot of common ground. And so my biggest fear is I go spend $1,200 on an insurance policy and $250 to up to the 501c3 I need to do a lease with you, and 4 people show up on Wednesday and say, screw you, we don't want you down there.
Yeah.
Now, how do I get that money back? Who do I tell that's donated, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, so that's
Yeah.
the dilemma, is if you guys don't support it, I don't know, Tiff.
It's just it's a sticky wicket.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at with it. I
Our
mean,
committee
give
is
me a
highly
direction.
dysfunctional, that's
we
why I
just need
relinquished my
to
seat.
find it, have another.
There's
place.
another 501c3 that's operating within the town hall committee
Right,
that is
raising money for a
raising money
skate park
for
and not the
things,
town hall.
and
Yeah.
there's a
And that's
large amount
their,
of
you know, and I
confusion
think that's a
there.
great idea.
Okay, so it sounds like a few things that have to happen here. One is the town hall committee has to understand whether or not they want to be a committee anymore. And it's not just about the individuals who currently are on the committee, it's about the
Exactly.
committee itself, right? Because if you can find new people to do the work, like committees change the makeup of them all the time. So the town hall committee has to figure out, do they still want to be a committee? And if so, how does that operate? I think that Heartful Kitchens needs to draft a proposed lease agreement that either the town hall committee or in their lack of functionality, this board then looks at and comments or moves on. But I think those are kind of the next steps here. Because I think, I know what you're asking the board to kind of say, but I think without having
Well,
something
show
in
of
writing.
hands, does the support for a food shelf exist on the select board? Without a motion?
Yeah, I would say in
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
In principle, absolutely.
And that's more than I
And I
got
think
from
that-
the committee.
But I think that
thank
we
you.
had that
Yeah.
Of
conversation
course, we need
a
the.
while back as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
And that was like
Yeah.
the feeling of
We
the
were
board,
supporting
like
you then,
we
yeah.
were
Totally.
in support of
Yeah.
moving the food shelf
Yeah.
from
The church to
Yeah.
the
to
basement.
the basement.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that
So
sentiment has
that'll
changed.
suffice for now, and we'll have our meeting Wednesday, and I will
Yeah.
pose the question to the committee. I mean, the bottom line is, maybe we just need a town hall manager, and co-manager, an upstairs, downstairs person, I don't know.
Does a lease agreement mean you're gonna be charging for the use of that?
J
But it
area
can be like
food
$10.
shelf. J
Okay.
area
I was gonna
food
say, I
shelf
would
has
hate to think
a-
that
No,
was
no,
charged.
no.
That's
I
pretty
think
good.
the lease is just something that lays out what the relationship is, what the expectations
There's no
are.
money there.
No.
No, we wouldn't charge.
J area food shelf serves, just as an example of our folks
Yeah.
over the hill, they serve about 5 times what I believe we would. They do Lowell, Westfield, they've got a big range, their budget, they spend $12,000 a year, they have a lease with the town, they just moved into the ambulance bay. Jay has never charged them money, they pay all their utilities. And that's totally fair, we're gonna increase the usage, so
Yeah.
that's why 50% of what we're fundraising has been going into the town hall, expressly with the P&L statement. And
Yep.
this is what we made. And they are limited to their town, so we can make up the rules. Hartful Kitchen Board will make up its policy on hours that we're open, how the building's used, we can limit who we serve to just Montgomery, Berkshire, Montgomery. So it's up to us to make the rules.
Yeah, so
Can
let's,
you lock can you lock the 2 spaces?
yeah, the basement door can get locked independently of the
But
other.
then there's a
But I mean,
fire
like-
exit in the
Yeah.
basement.
There's a
Yeah.
fire
so-
I don't think you can lock.
No, but I
No.
just mean,
But you can't get
like,
in
can you
from the
prevent,
outside.
if the Hartful Kitchen's open in the basement, can you restrict access to the main gallery?
Oh,
Upstairs, yeah, we can
Or main
actually,
gallery, sorry, main floor.
Yeah.
you can shut, and theoretically, we can change that and put a lock on it, but we make sure nobody goes up there, I mean.
Is there a door that shuts at the top of the stairs?
Yes, there is, and it has a knob lock on it, but we could turn that to a key lock. I mean, there's a lot of little
Yeah.
things we can do.
Yeah.
And currently, just so you're aware, we are open Tuesdays 3 to 6 for a few people that Lois needs to keep, that get commodities boxes delivered. So we're carrying on for a
Yep.
couple of people. We do have food there, it's Tuesdays 3 to 6. But we haven't done any major advertising
Yep.
or, hi, we're open, come get. But people that know, and we have served some community members in the last 7 weeks. So, and we're not, even without partnering and having that all clear with Vermont Food Bank, anybody in the state can open a food bank.
Yep.
And there's no rules. You can
Yeah.
make your own. So you
You
can
can
give
also
away.
dovetail in with, I don't know what our food security is with, if there was an emergency,
Right.
do we have a food storage through FEMA? Like,
Part of the emergency plan that we gotta talk about in a minute.
Okay.
Did you have a quick, Ed?
For you, are your intentions to stay open the whole winter?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I
The
was
reason-
for.
The reason I'm asking
keep
is
it.
usually I'm instructed to go winterize.
No.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about that issue?
Oh, you're Scott Oven.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
okay, you're, don't you guys?
So just an FYI.
I just
so-
don't wanna not go do it, but I'm supposed to.
As winter is approaching, our plan is to pull the plug and get those heat pumps installed because we do need a source of heat. But in the meantime, we will pop out ceiling tiles as necessary
To
to
let
use
the-
the conventional heat. Because as I found out while replacing these with my husband, not one of the ceiling tiles had a vent cut in it for the new furnace. So the last 12 years when the furnace was put in, the only heat that was coming into that basement was leaking through shitty ceiling tiles. We took them all out, and Dewey turned the heat on, and you had 12 vents in the tiles,
Yeah.
blowing heat into a space this big. So the fact that maybe the pipes froze was because the basement never really got heated.
Yeah, and that wasn't the furnace being replaced, just to be clear, that was the last time the panels ever got replaced, and I have no idea when that was.
19,
Yeah.
the date on them, they were there prior to the furnace.
Yeah, oh good, the furnace got replaced not that long
Yeah.
ago, but the panels have been there for
Right,
decades.
so
and
when they
decades,
replaced
so-
the furnace,
Yeah.
they never checked to see where the heat was going.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we will have to pop some tiles out if the heat pumps
Okay.
don't get installed. But our plan is to move forward with that, but we have to get a licensed electrician, we have
Yeah.
to get.
I just wanted to make sure I would
Yep.
go drain it, and I don't want to freeze it.
No,
So-
things are
It's probably
scheduled
gonna be
all
Okay.
winter.
contingent on.
So do you guys,
plans.
Tosca and Tiffany, do you guys have enough direction
we'll do a lease for you and put us on the next agenda.
Yeah, we'll keep you on the agenda. I think we need something in writing that we can all kind of look at together, kick the tires on, and then say, yes, this is the framework.
Right,
And that way there's no ambiguity.
Right,
Yeah.
and if I mean, our board will possibly bypass the town hall committee and bring that directly to you.
Well, like, it's the
I'll
town hall
try.
committee, let's do that separate, meet Wednesday, see what things look like, and then you can report back as to whether there is a
Well,
committee
we have
still,
been
or,
bypassed by Montgomery Smiles.
so, well,
Who's at the skate park. And
Anyway,
it's not
there's-
presented
Yeah.
to town hall committee.
the Montgomery Smiles is like not, I think our concern is like,
There's four
is
members
there
on
a
the
town hall committee that is,
That.
So,
are
yeah, I'm not
Montgomery
sure, I'm
Smiles.
not
So,
sure.
yeah.
Again, this was for Heartful
Yep.
Kitchen and the board that is going to form for this.
Yep.
And we might sit down and meet and decide to check out one more location and see if that might be a smoother ride.
Okay.
But we have to look at our options and what we've promised people that are handing us
Yeah,
money.
yeah. No,
So
and I think,
that was my point, but I do appreciate the hands up. Like, if in theory you support it, I'm willing to do what you
Yeah.
need, and we'll see where we go from there. In the
Scott,
meantime, we are transitioning the basement rummage. Abe has gotten a big truck to go down south, so that will
Is he
be,
gonna actually do that?
yes, and
and
it's
just to be clear, you're talking about hurricane relief.
hurricane relief.
Yeah, just so
So-
folks know about like going south. They're not going to like Belvedere. They're going.
We're gonna go south somewhere else.
The only thing on the news is about
No,
the hurricane in the
but-
south,
Yeah.
how bad they had it.
So,
Well, we've got some expertise.
I think Abe
so.
has put it out there that we'll still take donations in the basement. It's already set up as a good
Yep.
staging area. People are still coming in and spending money, so we've raised, as of yesterday, $2,500
Yep.
in rummage since we started, so it's not all for nothing. We only started the 50-50 split this last weekend,
Okay.
so prior to that, all the money has gone to Aaron's hands for the town.
Okay.
When is the
Great.
truck gonna go down?
I don't
south?
know.
Can you
We'll let
maybe
you
get
know.
more, these people around us, if they have anything that they can donate? Because the word,
We've been taking donations for the
yeah, but
last
I mean, the word needs to get out,
Thank you.
because that's a
Yes.
very
Yes.
important thing down here.
Yeah, no, of
Abe's on
course.
there.
Okay.
Abe's on it.
Okay.
Yes.
I just.
Thank you guys very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Thanks.
hey Scott, you just wanna make a note to call Blue and make sure they keep propane in the tanks?
They let everyone
Because-
in our building go down
I know, but just to tell them it's gonna be open all year.
Yeah.
Or I can.
there. Well, it's still, we still ran the furnaces, we just turned it down.
Yeah,
We still heated the building.
but if they know it's gonna be heated more,
They have a
then,
hard time keeping
Yep.
it.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I'll make a phone.
Okay.
okay,
Great.
just to,
Well, in the interest of time, let's keep, the next few of these should be pretty easy. So Northwest Access TV, so mentioned this last time, we allocate money every year out of our budget to Northwest Access TV through the social agency requests. We gave them $600 back at the beginning of the summer out of the FY24 budget. We have $600 allocated out of the FY25 budget, which is the fiscal year we're in right
Yeah.
now. We did get a letter from Northwest Access TV, which, as we had discussed last time, basically says, look, the ongoing decline in cable subscribers with Comcast due to what's happening in that world is creating a deficit with Northwest Access TV. They're losing about 10% of their funding compared to years past. They're asking if we can up our contribution. They had suggested $3,500, which is the estimated yearly cost of covering the Montgomery Selectboard meetings. But they also acknowledged that, that might not be possible, and they're happy to take whatever we can give them. So we do have $600 allocated in FY25 that we can get them as soon as Aaron can write the check. I guess the ask to the board would be, given the services that they provide, do we want to up that amount to something more than $600, given the financial constraints they're under?
where would that come out of? I mean,
It would come out of the general fund. I talked to
Yeah.
Erin about it, and I kicked some numbers around with her and said, what if we did 1,000? What if we did 1,500? And she basically said, that's all stuff that we can make up without
Okay.
much concern.
Okay.
So I don't have a number in mind. Again, we have $600 formally budgeted. We can up that amount if we'd like to. What about folks think about doubling it to $1,200?
Yeah.
I wonder if this sets a precedent for every other social services agency that we give funding to.
I think so.
To like come back and say, though, I mean, they're not necessarily like here
Giving us
on,
this-
every couple of
every
weeks
other week,
providing
yeah.
a service,
Yeah.
though they're all like, everything that we fund is
Getting more expensive.
providing a service for members of our community.
Yep.
I'm not saying that this isn't a valuable service. I am just saying if we set the precedent of we've allocated this funding based on the request that was given, we lumped this all in at town meeting, it was voted on and approved, and we're gonna go back and like double that.
Yep.
I don't know what stops any other social services agency in Franklin County that has done the same from coming to us and doing the same, and where do we
Yeah, the
Where
board,
do we draw that
the
line?
board would have
So-
to make that decision. I mean, nothing stops anybody from asking us for more money.
absolutely not.
So it's a good point.
Yeah.
And we can also kick it to budget season and look at FY26.
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, we budgeted that for it and just kick it to budget season.
And then
we'll
if
put
people
in,
vote on
we'll
it.
put in more, we'll put more in then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming
I mean,
right up
it's-
anyway, isn't it?
It's, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. We'll put that
I
request
see no
in.
reason not to like
At
cut
budget
them
time.
the check that is allocated
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Oh, that
2025
we're
like,
gonna,
The 600
immediately,
will
but
go.
I think
Yeah.
that we need to push that to budget season and
Yeah.
see where our numbers are at.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. Because that's what we,
all right, I will get back to Paul and let him know.
that's what was voted on.
KBS FY24 audit agreement. Excuse me one second. I got some notes in my email on this that I want to reference. What we have right now from the firm that does our audit, KBS, Cattell, Brandon and Sargent, is a letter of engagement. And so essentially, it's not an invoice, it's not a fixed number. This is how this works. We engage them to do the audit, and the cost ends up being whatever the audit takes.
Based
So
on
we
the
have,
hours that
Yeah.
yeah, so we have figures from the last few years we can look at. Last year, the total audit was $32,500. This year, they're expecting that it'll probably be an additional $5,000.
We budget
So,
for this.
like
Yeah. Oh, we budgeted.
$37,000?
The 37,500 is the estimate that we're looking at.
What did we,
We do budget for it. I don't have the budget numbers because I can't access my computer. But it is, I mean, in a way, this is kind of a must pay because we have to have the audit done.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Because the state requires it?
Yeah,
And the
we're
state offsets the cost?
the state does not offset the cost. No.
Interesting.
It's another one of those fun requirements.
But it's not just the
of
state. If we're going after any state money or federal money,
I know, we have
that
to be
we
in
need to have the
compliance.
audit, and that's so. Again, we don't have a figure tonight that we're voting on or passing. It's just signing a letter of engagement to get them lined up for the work. So I offer those numbers as just context, but the motion that we'd be looking for would be to sign the letter of engagement with KBS for the FY24 audit.
There's no reason to shop around or.
No, we did that a couple times. We've looked for other firms, we've looked at pricing, and these guys have been the best deal for us. Plus, at this
Yeah.
point, they know us.
Yeah,
So I think it
totally.
would actually probably be more efficient because they know how the books work. Erin knows how to work with them. She knows how to prep everything for them.
What are they charging on
Oh, you
an
got the book.
hourly basis?
Yeah.
If we're
Where
looking
is it
at
in-
$37,000, like
It's baked
Oh, it's baked
into, it'd be baked into general government
Oh, okay,
expenses.
that's what I thought.
I think it'd be baked under general government expenses. I don't have the, if
Yeah.
I had access to the computer, I could give you a breakdown of what goes into that. I want to say we budgeted
I think we did, yeah.
$35,000 last year because we knew it was going to be more expensive. 35,000 is the number that is in my head, but
Yeah,
don't hold me to that.
I mean, yeah, we gotta do
Do you
it.
need a motion for this?
Yeah, we need
I'd make a motion to engage with KVS auditors.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion to sign the letter of engagement with KBS?
I'll second that.
All right, thanks, Mark. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thanks, we'll get that rolling. Moving on to new business. First item here is just an update. So remember if folks, maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, Liz and Aaron and Genevieve had been researching MERP, Municipal Energy Resilience something. Basically, it's money for municipal buildings. At that point, they had changed kind of what they were doing with the grant, and so it didn't seem like it was going to be applicable. They've now changed that again, and the changes, again, I don't have my notes, but the changes they've made make it more favorable to us, and we have the opportunity to apply for up to $500,000 with no match component.
Wow.
And so Aaron.
This is a state.
Yeah, so it's through building BGS, Building and Ground Services, build BGS, Building and Ground, whatever. So Aaron, or Liz is prepping the application. There's no motion or action required tonight. I just wanted to let folks know that we are looking to go back to that for money for this building.
When you say changes, like to the architectural plan?
No.
Or to
The state has changed the grant
Yes.
program in terms of what they're functioning, how much money, what their
I
priorities
thought you
are.
meant our end had changed something. I was like,
No. And those things will come back to us as they get more refined. This is just a note about the funding.
Okay.
So if this grant goes through, we won't have to borrow the money for the vaults and all that stuff.
It depends on what the final amount comes to once we have the plans refined.
Yeah,
But this is a step towards locking in up to $500,000.
yeah.
We had a request, this is chair yoga. We had a request from Kristen, who does chair yoga with seniors in this building. The building use policy for this room, when the Grange had kind of opened back up, we basically had said like all stuff like that should go to the Grange. Kristen made a request to allow the chair yoga activity, whatever you want to call it, to remain in this space. The reason being that access to this building and parking is a lot easier for seniors. Closer parking, no stairs. So she reached out to ask whether the board would essentially grant a waiver to the policy to allow her to keep doing chair yoga in this room.
When does she do that?
I don't know, honestly.
Okay.
I think it's one afternoon a week.
Yeah,
Has it,
Probably once a week.
yeah.
has it had any like detriment to
No.
normal?
I did ask Liz, and I said, do you guys have any concerns
Senior
with the use of that whatsoever? And she said, no, not at all.
Great.
The senior during cosmetic.
Carry on.
So is there a motion to grant a waiver to the building use policy for this conference room to allow chair yoga to continue using the space?
I'll make a motion for chair yoga.
Okay, thanks. Is there a second for chair yoga? Second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thank you.
Who's gonna oppose chair yoga? Gotta be one of us.
No one.
Come on now.
Oh, yeah.
I have a question. Oh, Scott's gone. Just on this access question for seniors, does the elevator work?
Yes,
In the
in the Grange
Grange?
Hall.
It does?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep, it does.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last item before permits and licenses, which we have none, so last item. Director of Emergency Management. So Greg Lucas, Sweat, has been our Director of Emergency Management. He's got his hands full with his teaching license and other stuff he's got going on. So we will be looking for a new Director of Emergency Management. So if anybody knows anybody who might be good at this, please reach out. The main concern here is that our local emergency operations plan has lapsed. It's not a big deal until it's a big deal. And so one concern is that if we have an emergency, we want to have an up-to-date emergency operations plan. The other part of it, which is kind of a big deal financially, is that if we do have a disaster, if we don't have that plan in place, it means that we get a lower reimbursement rate on the, what they call our ERAF, emergency.
Relief.
Yeah, it's the amount of money we get reimbursed from FEMA.
So the reason it's not updated is just because we don't have a director?
It lapsed, and so there's been no one to carry it forward. Doug's our deputy, Sweat's our director, and so they'd been talking about it. There's a grant from regional planning, and I've been going back and forth with Sean. There's just been no one to pick the ball up and move it forward.
They don't have any recommendations as like our emergency department?
I have not gotten any from them. So I'm just putting it out there. If anybody knows anybody who you think might be good at this or have interest in it, please have them reach out and we can talk to them.
Is it a
No, there is no
It's a
compensation.
voluntary.
You get just a volunteer. And that brings us.
It always helps, you know.
That brings us through our agenda for the evening. With that, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks, Suzanne. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Mark. Thanks, Mark. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 8:07 PM, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Meeting adjourns at 8:07 PM. And again, apologies for the Zoom functionality not functioning this evening. We'll try to get that fixed for next meeting.
I know it's.